welcome to the first episode of The Roundtable, a parenting podcast brought to you by the KAS PTO. We're so happy you're joining us. My name is Sarah Jamani and I'm the Vice President of the PTO. Today joining me is Mr. Mohsin Deli, he's also a member of the PTO. Mr. Jacob, he's a grade 3 teacher, and Ms. Alize Imam, she's the counselor at KAS. The Roundtable is a space where we're going to explore topics that matter to families and education here in Karachi through open and thoughtful conversations with members of our school community. In today's episode, we'll be talking about navigating difficult conversations with children, these moments that can feel unexpected, uncomfortable, and hard to approach as parents. Alize brings a great deal of experience and insight to this topic. She'll begin by helping us better understand these conversations and how challenging they can be, and how we can approach them with confidence. Later in the episode, we'll be sharing and discussing real questions from our parent community, so we can explore how these ideas can look in everyday situations where families are facing. Let's get started. On to you, Alize.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and hello to everyone listening. I'm really glad you're here. Something that I hear a lot from parents is that, my child asked a question and I didn't know what to say, and, I was just confused, or I was just flabbergasted that this question came in so early on. And honestly, that's okay. We don't need to know everything, and not knowing what to say in that moment does not make us a bad parent. It's just that as long as we keep that discussion open, as long as we let them know that, we are here to help you, or we're here to have conversations, that's important. And most of this usually happens when our children bring up something very real and very raw to us. And so it's okay to feel that way in that moment. Children today are growing up in a very different world from the one most of us at least, grew up in. It's more loud, it's more noisy, it's more chaotic, more demanding, and everything's literally on their fingertips. They have access to information which we didn't, and so, a lot of times parents think that, okay, what I'm talking about it is going to put that idea in my head, in my child's head, or make them more curious. Well, not newsflash, but your child already knows a lot of it. And so it's important that, you're the one who brings up these conversations with them, you're the one who talks to them about all of it. Some of these questions may be about growing up, about the things they're seeing in the news, anything inappropriate. They may have access, these days, between games, in YouTube shorts, in reels, different things come up. And so one of the most common fears students have or children have is that my parent will think I was looking for it and I will get in trouble. We need to reassure them that we trust you, you can always bring it up to us and we will talk about it. And the most important thing is to keep that door open for them. A lot of times these conversations happen at a time which is not very convenient for us. So for instance, while we're making dinner, middle of a grocery trip, late at bedtime, and so it's important to know that, letting them know that we will talk about this, and then go back to that topic and do discuss it whenever it works for you. One of the most important things to know is, or understand, is how children work. They're always watching us. They're not just listening to what we're telling them, but also watching for our reaction. They want to know that if I bring this question up to my parent, am I going to get in trouble? Will this make my parent uncomfortable? And so our reaction is one thing which tells them that, whether they should bring this up again or not. So, whether that's a change in our tone, our expression changing, a pause that comes in, that is what lets them decide that my parent is someone I want to bring up these questions with or not. And so we have to make sure that we kind of have that control over our reactions. And I say that with a lot of compassion because these reactions aren't something that are coming from nowhere, right? These are something that have been passed down to us. Most of us grew up in homes where these things weren't talked about, and so we do not know how to talk about it as well because, again, it's not like our parents didn't talk to us about us because of neglect. It's just because they weren't taught how to. And so we need to break that cycle, and we need to start talking about it so that our children know how to process it as well.
So Alize, what if they ask a question and I generally don't know what is to say in that moment?
That's actually very normal and completely okay. We don't need to have all the answers in that moment. As long as you tell them something like, I'm glad you brought this up to me, I'm gonna look into it and get back to you. And then again, you do get back to them. Having said that, that does two things. It buys you time and it lets your child know that you're a safe person to bring these questions up to.
Shuts down or says nothing when I try to talk.
That's also very common. That does not mean that your child does not want to talk to you completely. It's just that they need some space and time to process it. In that moment, letting them know that, I'm here, I'm going to be here. Sometimes children aren't ready to talk about things, and pushing can actually close the door. So as long as you let them know that I'm going to be here whenever you're ready, leaves that door open and they can always come back to you and talk to you about it. And again, it also builds safety over time because they know that okay, 2 days back when I told mom to leave me, she actually gave me that space and she took a step back. But now I'm ready and I'm prepared, so they might come back. And if they don't, it's always good for you to go check in with them as well. That remember how you want to talk about something, or remember this had happened. Are you ready to talk about it now? That way, they might.
With the current war images on social media, my child asked, could that happen here in Karachi? How do I give an honest answer that acknowledges the world without fueling their middle of the night anxieties?
That depends on how you talk about that. If it is the news that is happening in the world, let's say with the war and everything going on, and you feel like you talking about it is going to make them anxious, and that's actually a very common misconception because the children are already seeing it. If you don't talk about it with them, that means that they will be processing it, all of it, alone. When you talk to them about it, that shows them that this is a safe place that I can have this conversation with, I can share what I'm going through, I can share what I'm feeling. And again, having conversations where you consider their feelings with everything. So I hear you. I hear that you saw that. How does that make you feel? Yes, it makes me feel very sad as well. What is something that we can do? So having those conversations where you're making it as something that both of you are feeling, or the whole family can look into it as well. At the end of the day, these moments where your child is asking you these questions is them kind of testing you, seeing is it safe to bring it up to you. And the most important thing is that they know that you are a safe place, and then they can reach out to you and you can be there for them consistently. Whether that be that about having a question about puberty or talking about the war, it has to be something that they can come to you and you will be there to respond to their questions. And what's also very important is to know that you don't always have to have the answer. It's just that you need to be present. Sometimes quietly just being with them in that moment opens up a lot of doors, and they need to know that you are someone they can always rely on and come to when they have any difficult questions to ask.
Thank you, Alize, for sharing it with us. I know that this can feel a very challenging topic for many parents, but you have given us some thoughtful, practical ways to approach this conversation with care. At this point, we would love to bring some voices for our parent community. We've collected this question from parents' real situation and concern that many families are navigating now. We are going to share some of those and talk through them together, bringing in different perspectives and thinking about how we can approach these moments at home. Okay. Next question.
One of the questions that we have is that the school's puberty classes spark questions I wasn't ready for. How do I answer accurately without feeling like I'm crossing a cultural line or oversharing according to our family values?
I think the first thing is it's so important that they're coming to you. That's showing that they trust you, that they feel like you're safe, and that's something you want to be open to because you want them coming to you for these answers. You don't want them going somewhere else to find these solutions or to find these answers.
I think it's very important to make them feel, like you said, comfortable to come and discuss that with you and tell them that I'm glad you chose me to talk about this and not someone else, because they will go to someone else if it's not interesting. Sometimes it could be a very awkward conversation to have, especially with boys. There are questions I don't know how to answer, and sadly my husband's not great about it also. So you just have to take that plunge and just have that conversation, make them feel comfortable, and with a straight face also. So I think it's very important.
Who better than to pass on those values, yes. Right? So it's not like you're compromising on your family's values. You're actually passing on those values to your kids. Yeah. It's important that you have that conversation with them. Again, you don't have to go into details about what's happening, what's not happening. You just tell them what they need to know, and that's it.
Yeah, and it's very important to make them feel that where the safe place is.
Yes.
So if they know where the safe place, they will directly and naturally come to you only to ask the questions. So make their safety zone anything for puberty or anything is very important.
And I think the school is doing a great job with these classes that they're doing, because it sparks a lot of questions, and they do come back and they want those questions discussed. So I think that's a great way to kind of start the conversation.
And if in that moment you don't know the answer, it's always okay to let them know that I'm going to come. Let me just take a check on this, and I'm going to come back to you about it. Yeah.
I
I think another thing is that you don't, when they come to you with a question, you do not have to answer everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if my kids are little, so they come and ask me, where do babies come from? He's 6. I'm gonna say, oh, remember when your brother was in your mommy's tummy? And that was enough of an answer for him. You make it age appropriate and don't feel like you have to answer everything.
Yeah. I think yes, that's a very important point. It needs to be age appropriate. Yes.
I want to help my child succeed, but our evenings have become a battlefield over homework. How do I support the assignments without doing the work for them, or both of us ending up completely burnt out?
I think the challenge usually comes up when we're taking ownership of something that belongs to them. It's their homework and they want to feel in control. So instead of saying that, get this done, ask them, what do you need from me? Some days they might need help from you, some nights they might want you to take a step back. So as long as you do keep that check for them, so let them know that I'm going to be back in an hour to see how much progress you've done, it should be okay. You don't need to be hovering over them while they're doing their work.
So, but sometimes it happens that the children or the child does not need that help, but the parent is taking so much pressure because of the society and all, and they are pushing the children to excel in everything which they are not, and that conversation starts becoming more toxic and all, and then the parents don't know how to handle this, and it becomes a mess at home as well. How do we do that?
So I think it's already such a long day at school, and you come back, so there has to be some structure, there has to be some balance. We can't expect them to come back and get straight into their homework. Instead, they need a little bit of a break. For my kids, the reward system has worked really well. I'll give them something to look forward to. So I'll tell them, if you finish this in time, and this is your time frame, this is what you're going to get. And usually that works really well for us because, they'll get it done on their time. They'll be very proud to show it to me, and that I haven't been asking them about it. So that works for me.
I think going off of what you said, they do come home, they might be tired. Have a conversation with them. All right, we have to get this done. When are we going to do it?
Yeah.
Maybe they say, I'll do it in an hour. All right, I'm going to set a timer. They can see the timer and hold them to it. Like, all right, you said you're going to do this in an hour. Now we are going to get started.
Yeah.
That gives them agency. They made the choice for that, and I think that'll help them out.
But as for little kids, the reward system works. But as when they grow up older, they become in their teens or late teens, they become more reluctant to listen to their parents, and they don't want to follow their instructions. So how do the parents handle that situation? That's very difficult at that moment.
If you've said this consistently from a very young age, so let's say when they were in grade 1, grade 2, and you've been doing it, it will work up till when they're in middle school, because that habit has developed now. That okay, once I come from school, I need to just go take a shower, do a certain thing, and then by this time I should open up my bag and get started with my homework. Not completed by a certain time, but at least started. So that habit development is very important. We have to be consistent with what rules we are setting within our home, and having a certain routine. It will always help.
What do we do if we're in that situation where it's like, oh, I didn't actually do that up to this point, but now I want to make a change.
Yeah.
I have an older kid. I didn't set that up from an early age. What can I do now?
Again, the timer thing actually works for the kids as well. What we're doing in high school SEL and even in middle school SEL has been teaching them Pomodoro technique, which is like you focus for 20 minutes and then you take a 5-minute break. And if you start developing them again, having that conversation with them, letting them know why we're doing this. This is not a punishment that you have to do it. It's something that will help you, set you for success, even in university life. Because at that time, you won't have us around to tell you to get this done. You have to build that up. So again, having that conversation with them, letting them know why we're doing this to help them get through with it. And maybe again, depending if it's a middle school student, still have some reward system with them.
And it probably won't change overnight. This will
No,
not.
never.
Yeah, it'll take some process.
Yeah. Because again, this is a habit we plan on building for them, right? So the longer and consistent we are with it, the more consistent the kids are going to be with it.
And I need to add is that we need to build confidence in the children. We don't need to pressurize them that we have to do it. If you pressurize them, their confidence levels goes down. So by giving a reward or giving them space to do their work, it builds up their confidence, which will help them later in their life. Like if they are older kids in the college or in high school, it will help them. So the confidence building measure should be there, not being pressurizing them to do their work, and giving them the space is much more important.
again, how you're approaching this task. Okay, let's get this done. You do this, I'm going to basically deal with you, read a book, I'm going to be working on my thing. Maybe, make it a family thing or something like, okay, whenever we do our work, we do it at the dining table, not in our room. Something that makes them feel like, okay, everyone's doing it, so I can also do this.
Here's another good question. My child is under so much pressure to be perfect. When they fail a test or don't make a team, they crumble. How do I teach them resilience without sounding like I'm just dismissing their feelings?
Resilience is not taught by minimizing their feelings, so it's very important to sit with their feelings. You have to sit with their feelings, let them know that it's so disappointing. I get it why you're so sad, and then let them know how to pick up from where they left. So, for instance, if it's a sports team they couldn't make up for, okay, what can we do next? Again, letting them know that I'm so proud of you for even trying out. Last year you did not try out, this year you did. Let's get some coaching if you need to. Let's, letting them know that you're a team and you can help them with it. And again, I will emphasize that you have to validate their disappointment, not rush through, in order to give that lecture, okay, everything's going to be fine and everything. A lot of parents tend to rush through their kids' feeling. That invalidates it, that makes them feel like, okay, I'm not allowed to feel my disappointment. So we need to make sure we don't do that.
I would like to add, like earlier I said that in any case, we need to validate their feelings and then they give them some space to that.
Yeah.
So if you validate the feeling and you straight away jump to the solution, it will not help them. You need to give some space to them and then process that sadness or failure and then come back sometime and get them to the solution and it will be better.
Yeah, I think it's very important for them to learn failure as well. The old saying, like you win some, you lose some. It's important for them to know that failing is also part of your journey, and that's just going to make you work harder and be better at anything that you feel like you're lacking. So I think that's very important, message to give to them as well. Also validating their feelings.
I think coming from a teacher perspective who's also a parent, failure is part of the learning process, so they need to fail to be able to improve. So it's not, instead of like reframe it, instead of thinking of it as a failure, it's like, all right, we're going to learn from this, what are we going to do next time? How can we, what did you learn from this? What ways can we be better?
A good idea, a good way to do it is like if they fail or do something wrong, is retrace your steps. What did you do? What was the, how did you do this? Retrace your steps and you will find the answer yourself. And if they learn how to do that, they are able to overcome their problems and issues easily.
And I think it's so great that they're trying and they put themselves out there and to recognize that and tell them that we're so proud of the fact that you actually tried to
Right. Okay, so I have another question, which is, my teenager and I constantly disagree on social priorities. They want to stay out late or go to certain hangouts, and I'm worried about safety and values. How do we navigate these disagreements without them pulling away from me? So,
yeah, I think for this one, communication is very, very important. I think we have to respect each other's boundaries, understand that they are on their own journey. We cannot micromanage everything. So it's important to just ask them who they're going with, who's going to be there and everything, and then just let them go. And then have some sort of open line communication. Have maybe if they have a phone or whatever, just check up on them, but then also not be a helicopter parent where you're trying to control everything around them.
I think again, as parents, the hardest thing to do is let go. But then we need to know that the tighter we hold on to them, the more they pull away. And so, even if you don't want them to go to a certain place, maybe always let them know why. That I don't feel safe when you're there or anything. So I know I get it that you can't always let them go everywhere, and there are parents who have their reservations. It's important to have that conversation with them.
So I'd like to add, when we discussed earlier, that we've started this from the early age, that's where the safe space. So they will share everything with you when they know that this is a safe place, and my parents should know everything. Children, if we have developed it from the early age, the children will know where the safe place is, and if they have any things like this, where to go or their values are different, they will first discuss with you, and then they will be very confident, very relaxed in going out and discussing that we have this problem, and you will be also very relaxed with them to tell them that this is not a safe place and this is what we want. So an open conversation and open place will be much better for the children too.
I think, once they're a little older, like it says teenagers here, it is very important to be a friend to them as well.
Yes.
Like you said, that support really goes a long way for them. Just the fact that they know that they can call you if they mess up or anything, you will be there. And calling you should be their first call rather than anyone else.
One thing that I think about is, and I'm just curious to hear from you guys, is there are security concerns in Karachi. How do you provide that freedom for your kids to let them go do some things while keeping them safe? I'm not at that age yet where I have to think about that. So, I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that.
That's a tough one because we can't control all of that. But if they're going to like clubs or controlled places where the exits, they have people sitting there. Me personally, I feel comfortable sending my kids there or to someone's house. Malls and all of those places, or even grocery stores for that matter, I don't let my kids go there. But again, right now they're young, I can control it. Once they're older, I don't know how that's going to be. But yeah, security is a big concern here, so that's something that we need to do.
I agree with that right now we control whatever we can, where we can send them it's more safe than a confined environment, so it's better they can go, but not everywhere. It's very difficult for them at this stage. Next question is, my child mentioned some mean comments in a group chat, but they begged me not to tell the school. How do I empower them to handle bullying without making them feel I'm taking away the social autonomy?
The fact that I told you is significant, so you need to honor that. Let them know that at this point I will not tell the school, but what's your plan? How do you want to handle it? And come up with ideas, brainstorm ideas, what they want to do. Again, encourage them to advocate for themselves. Let them know that you can always go talk to your school safeguarding team, your school's principal, any safe adult or any trusted adult you find in school. So as long as you're encouraging them to voice out their concerns and advocate for themselves, that's great. Again, it also depends on the nature of bullying. If it is a physical altercation or something that you feel is harmful, you need to step in. Again, thank them for trusting you enough to letting you know, and then tell them that you will have to take it up to the school management in that case.
I think with a lot of if it's some mean comments in there, I think you can coach kids through how can they deal with that? How can they talk to their friends about how they made this feel, how this made them feel, and just try to help them out that way. Sometimes it's easy for us to want to jump in and solve every single thing, but it's good for them to have an opportunity to try to solve these issues on their own. But keeping in mind what you said, if it's at a more serious level, that changes it. So kind of look at the situation. Is it something a kid can handle, and help them learn how to handle it.
I think also it's personal example, like in 5th grade, I know they have a problem if someone talks about it, they're labeled a snitch. So that's one of the reasons why they don't want to come forward with a lot of their issues. So is that something that we should be dealing with at school and have them talk to the kids that it's okay to stand up for yourself, it's okay to talk about it, it doesn't make you a snitch. Or at that age, is it okay to let them handle it on their own? Like you said, there are levels of it. If it's not physical, these little things, should they be handled on their own?
I think you should always be in touch with what's going on and help them problem solve it, not completely handling it on their own, making them feel like they're doing it on their own, but always kind of subtly putting in ideas. So for instance, something I do with my daughter who's 6 is that I ask her, we have conversations. I'm like, okay, I don't like you, I don't want to be your friend. What's your response going to be like? That's okay, I like myself enough. So something like that, building up their confidence, letting them know. Because again, bullying that happened while we were growing up was very different from what's happening. End of school day, we're home, we're safe.
Yeah.
Now it's coming back home as well. In fact, a lot of more of it is happening online.
Yeah.
And so, it's always there for them. So helping them, not that be prepared for it, but in a way, just knowing that, again, having that safe space, that conversation open, that if something happens, come to me, we'll talk about it, we'll handle it together. So bullying is something very serious, it has long-term implications, so always address it, is what I would suggest.
So I would like to add in this that we have a safe space, so it's not about bullying or anything, any mean words or what. We can just tell the children that okay, it's great to know these words, but you should not use them. If somebody uses them, you know what to do. You don't need to reply them the same way.
Yes.
And you need, if anything else, you can come to us and tell us that if you do not like it, we can talk to the school, we can talk to the parents. And a recent example is that my child came to me that this child said this to me. I said it's okay. He said, can you talk to their parents that I don't like it? And we went to talk to the parents. They appreciated it and it never happened again. So having the space, safe space, and telling them where to go is very important. Same as with bullying. That recently there was some bullying going on, and my child said, "We know where to go in school. We can go to Miss Peckle immediately and tell them that this happened, or we can call somebody else." He said the name I don't remember, but he said we can just go and tell them, and it will be taken care of. I don't need to do anything about it.
I think you brought up a great point where sometimes it's okay to talk to the parents directly because we're all in this together. Our kids are still, learning. They're figuring out their limbs. Like sometimes they don't need to hurt and they don't realize their own strength. And they don't. So sometimes it's okay to get the parents involved and sort it out at home rather than bringing it to school. So I think that's a very important point that you.
And if your child has that fear that okay, I'm going to be called a snitch or something like that, let them know that this is your job as a parent is to protect them and keep them safe, and this is what needs to be done.
Yeah.
And then later on in the long run, of course, it's going to help.
And I think we stress that like if someone is in physical harm, they're not a snitch. Like it's just
Yeah.
not it's not something that we do. You can little things you can let go. We tell if something is someone's going to get hurt. Yeah.
We'll move on to the next one. Okay, so this one is a bit of a sensitive topic. We are going through a separation in our own home. How do I explain this to my child in a way that it validates their sadness but firmly reassures them that this is an adult decision and not their fault? And how do I answer my child's questions about why it happened without gossiping?
Okay. So you need to let them know that this is not your fault and we love you. That is one thing you need to keep on repeating time and again to reassure them, because that's one of the most common things with what the child feels is that this happened because of me. And so we have to circle back to it again and again, and from both parents. It should be coming in from both parents that we both love you and it's not your fault. Yes, things are going to be different now. Again, letting them know what's happening, but that's it. Not much more of why it happened, what happened, who was wrong. No blame game should be there. So, yeah.
As someone who grew up with divorced parents, I think a big thing also is trying not to let the conflict impact your child. So if you are a parent, going through a divorce, try to keep that away from the kids. When I was growing up, I didn't sense any of that. It might have been going on, but I didn't see it because my parents didn't let that come into our lives. So trying to keep them, again, reassuring them that it is not their fault and don't involve them in any conflict between you and your ex. Like if you're mad at them, don't share that with the kids. Keep that away from them. They don't need that.
Yeah, like to add, you can like to add in this is that after this has happened, your both parents need to be relevant for the child, be present in their life, so they will know that it's not their fault. Both parents are there. Anyhow, they're living separately, but they are there for me whenever I need. So make sure that you tell your child, or your child knows that either of the parents will be there for you whenever you need them.
I was just saying, I think it's very important for parents to remember that they need to co-parent and just make it an easy transition for the kids. So, and they're going to be part of like school meetings and everything. So to kind of keep it civil for the sake of the child, I think not to bring, like you said, you never even knew what was happening. I think that's very important. That it's not discussed in front of the kids and there's no oversharing involved.
What if it's not happening in your family though, but a friend's family? Your child is hearing about this happening to somebody else and wondering if it can happen to them.
I think it's important to have that conversation that, if two people decide that they don't want to live with each other, it's okay. And we don't need to share too many details. We just need to leave it at that. And it can happen to anyone at any time, but it's not happening right now. So let's live in the present and enjoy what we have. If everything is great, like keep it there.
I think in that case, what the child really is asking is, are we okay? Because that happens again, that when you find out that friends' parents are going through something, when they find out that a friend's parent is going through something, this common fear comes in that, okay, this is going to happen with me as well. So in that moment, addressing that we're okay, we're doing fine. Again, not making promises about forever or whatever, but in that moment, we're doing well, we're fine, and things are going to be okay.
And also telling that it's a natural process. These things do come up, and you don't need to be worried about it. It's a natural. It can come up with anyone else, and it can come up with us also. It's not happening right now, but it's a natural process. It happens. So giving them that surety that it's not going to happen, but it can happen is much very important.
You just need to make sure that in that moment they're feeling secure enough, and that your answer should make sure that your answer should make them feel secure enough.
And I think just going back to it, the biggest thing is let them know it's not their fault. Repeat it over and over again, multiple times. It's not your fault this happened. It's not your fault.
And we love you. Like that.
Yes,
Like a long reassurance. Yeah. So there's this question about death and grief actually, that we've had a recent loss in the family. How much of my own grief should I let my child see? Is it better to be a strong pillar? Or is it okay for them to see me cry and not have all the answers?
I think it's really important that your child does see you vulnerable, and it is okay to show them that you cry. I especially think for men, it's important to show that. Growing up, it was kind of this thing oh, men need to be strong, they don't cry. And I don't think that's true. I think they need to see emotion from you, and that's going to help them themselves deal with grief in a healthy way.
Because if you're pretending that you're not grieving, like if parents are pretending that they haven't been impacted by it, that's teaching their child that it's not okay to grieve in public, or you have to hide it, because they definitely are feeling it, right? And if they see their parents feeling it but not showing it, that's what the message is being sent, that you shouldn't be grieving in public. So it's, yes, please cry in front of them if you need to, have those moments, vulnerable moments in front of them. Again, don't have those long outbursts in front of them. But yeah, please do cry in front of them. Again, don't have those long outburst sessions where you're making your child a therapist. But let them know that it's okay to grieve. Again, make sure that you have a conversation with them about it as well, that I'm feeling sad today because I missed XYZ, or because this happened and this is why I'm crying. Don't cry and then leave that home and not come back to what happened, because that's going to confuse the kid as well, that what really happened.
Another thing is make them involved, it's just not death and grief, any illness or that. You should be age relevantly sharing information with the child, so they know what's going on. To keep them in a secure place, and suddenly something happens, that will impact them more. So sharing information about somebody's sick, somebody's getting old, somebody fell down, sharing the information, they knowing that something even worse can happen, keeps them in a better position than suddenly getting the information from any parent or anywhere else. So keeping them informed is much better. So they can also, if there is grief, they can also take it easily.
And modeling that in front of them, right? Like letting them know that, okay, this is something that was very sad that we had to go through as a family. But now we're going to work, you have to go to school, and making sure that their routines are as stable as possible. Again, get help for yourself as well, because we can't pour from an empty cup. So we have to make sure that we're getting the help we need and then supporting them and helping them. I think one of the most important things we can do as parents is help ourselves, or get the help we need, because that's the only thing that's going to help them see how important it is to take care of ourselves and have that self-care moments as well.
Yeah, and I learned that it's very important for parents as well, that as you said, need help. So you need to also make parents realize that they also need help. Every individual needs some type of help from our outside source, so that they can carry on with their lives, either in grief, happiness, whatever situation. Help is always needed, and help always makes you more stronger, much better person.
And it can help doesn't necessarily mean that professional therapy help, but also like go to a friend, talk to a friend,
Yeah.
take your dog out for a walk, whatever's working for you, whatever your coping strategies are, use them and let your child see you do that so that they can also develop these healthy coping strategies.
Thank you all the parents who shared their questions and to everyone listening along with us today. These aren't always easy situations and there are no single right answers to them. But we hope this conversation has given you a few ideas and maybe a bit more confidence on how to take up these moments at home. We're really glad you joined us for the first episode of the Roundtable and we are excited to keep the conversation going. Our next episode will be coming out in May and we hope you join us then. We'll be focusing on peer dynamics, social pressure, and how to support children as they navigate friendship and social changes. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.